Good morning. Today we look at Numbers 31, 32, and 33. And chapter 31 is a hard chapter to read, to be able to put together, and just the conquest of Midian. And God instructs Moses, he says, avenge the Israelites against the Midianites. And then you'll be gathered together with your people. We're coming to the end of the 40 years, and Moses gathered together with his people means he's going to die. But we don't, that's. But in chapter 31 comes with Moses calling for 1,000 men of each of the 12 tribes of Israel to go to war against the Midianites. And they do. They go to war against them. And of course, God is leading and guiding. And it just doesn't seem like a godlike thing to me to be the one that's, really controlling so much of it. But they go and they kill the 5 kings of Midian and Balaam and all of the men, all of the males that are of age to be able to be a fighter. And for the Israelites, that was over 20, and they're all killed. It's just devastation is just horrible. In our world today, we're looking at the people that are killed in Iran, and not only the Iranians but the American soldiers and others as well. And we think there's just a lot of war going on in the world today, and people being killed that way, but this conquest, I'm just going to say that word, is because God has promised his people that he will lead them into the promised land and guide them and protect them. And so they go against them, as I said, and they totally destroy all of the men. And they bring back the women and the children and the cattle and the sheep and the goats and the gold and the silver. And they've plundered and just brought everything back. But they're in trouble because they shouldn't have brought all of the women back, because it was because of the women that some of the women had tempted the men, and they'd been married, and this was part of what had caused the plague, a few chapters back. And so God says, no, all of the women who have been married and are, have to be killed as well. It's just terrible travesty in my mind, but it's God's way, I guess, of providing for his Israelites, his chosen people. But the young girls and the boys are spared, but then so there's, they don't completely destroy them, which is a good thing, I think. And they come with the plunder, the cattle and everything else. And that is to be divided out, and the share goes to the men who went to war, and the share goes to the people, to be divided amongst the 12 tribes of Israel. The cattle, the sheep, the goats, the gold, the silver, everything that was brought back is divided out, and some of it needs to be given as a tithe to the priests. Moses gets some, everybody gets taken care of in this division of the properties. And after that, in chapter 32, the Reubenites and the Gadites and I think from some of the children of Manasseh. Anyway, they come and they say to Moses, this is where we are now. This land of the Midianites is good land for our cattle and for our herds, and we would like to settle here rather than, continue the wandering, because they're, as I said, they're toward the end of this 40 years, and they're going to be settling into the new land, but it's going to be a while before we get there. But, and Moses says, you don't want to go against God, because it's because the people rebelled against God. This, original group that left Egypt, they're all dead now, and you don't want to, upset God again, so that, we're still on the outs. But because we need to have everybody together as we go to possess the lands. And these leaders of these tribes say, if we settle here, we will leave our women and our children and our cattle and our everything here, but we will come men and the fighting, and we will help you, conquer and take control of those promised lands of God. We are not going to abandon you. And so that meets Moses' approval, God's approval. And so some of the tribes, stay there in that land of what had been the Midianites, and they build their sheepfolds and they get everything set up that way. And so verse 33 of chapter 2, Moses gave to them, the Gadites and the Reubenites and the half-tribe of Manasseh, the kingdom of King Sihon of the Amorites and the kingdom of Og of Bashan and the lands. And so these are the lands that they had just been in that way. And so the Reubenites rebuild these cities, and some of them were renamed, so that it was different that way. And so some of them are starting to settle in the land where they're going to, live for, hopefully for many more generations to come. Chapter 33 kind of gives us, again, a list of an itinerary, a travel journey, a history of the 40 years of wandering in the wilderness. As they left from Egypt, until they got to the border of Canaan. Canaan was the promised land. That was, the ultimate goal. And so they're on the verge of entering into the promised land. But so we can just a concise synopsis, a diary of the journey of the 40 years, and it's just one chapter, what is it, 40, 50 verses, that comes in there and talks about the different things. And when we get to verse 38, we know it's into that 40th year. Aaron, the priest, goes up on Mount Hor at the command of God and died there in the 40th year after the Israelites had left the land of Egypt on the first day of the 5th month. And Aaron was 123 years old when he died there. And so we're down now to Moses, Caleb, and Joshua, the three that God had promised, because Caleb and Joshua were faithful in in what God had said once before, and Joshua is going to become the new leader in time as we begin the book of Joshua. We still got to go through Deuteronomy, but with some more. I guess Deuteronomy is kind of the second telling of the law, but we'll get into that. I think we finish Numbers tomorrow, and so Deuteronomy will start on Friday. Speaking of tomorrow, I'm going to do my devotion probably about 7 o'clock or so tomorrow morning. Of course, it'll be available online whenever you look. But in verse 50 of chapter 33, it says, "In the plains of Moab, by the Jordan at Jericho, the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israelites and say to them, when you cross the Jordan into Canaan, you will drive out all the inhabitants of the land from before you. You will destroy their figured stones, their idols, their images, their things of worship. You will take possession of the land and settle in it, for I have given it to you, the Lord says. You shall apportion the land by lot according to your clans. To a large one, you give a large inheritance." So these are beginning to be God's final instructions to the Israelites as to how they're going to settle the land of Canaan, the promised land, when they get to it. And verse 55 is a warning. "But if you do not drive out all the inhabitants of the land before you, then those whom you let remain shall be barbs in your eyes and thorns in your side, and they will trouble you in the land where you are settling." So it's again, drive the people out. Destroy them completely, and so that they aren't thorns in your side. They aren't going to be tempting you away from God. And again, the battle lines are drawn, and the promise of God is about to be fulfilled in the real time here. And so tomorrow we'll finish this book of Numbers. At least I believe we finished. I didn't look ahead for sure, but there's just 3 chapters left, so I'm assuming we will. So God bless your day, this day and always.